Welcome to Beyond the Blend, the podcast that goes behind the science and talks to the people at the heart of the lubricant market, telling the real story of the people who make the lubricant market move. With real insight and honest conversations, we aim to show off the people's side from across the entire lubricant supply chain. Join me, Steve Knapp and Rob Taylor as we delve behind the scenes of the lubricant industry. Let's go. So before we start this with Ella, here's a quick 5 from 5. Ella, on a scone, butter or cream?
Cream.
Fiction or non-fiction?
Fiction.
Video meetings or in-person meetings?
I think a mix of both.
I don't know if I'll let you have that. Or audio book or a physical book?
Physical book.
A music playlist or a podcast?
Music playlist. I'm so sorry. Bad answer. Maybe you want to do another question.
No, well, I like it. We're getting to know you behind the blend, Ella, and I'm really delighted that you've joined me today. Marketing executive from Vickers Oils. Welcome to Beyond the Blend. It's really great to have you here.
Thank you.
So we've known each other really just from messaging on LinkedIn, right? Mm-hmm. So this is the first time we've got to have a proper conversation. So thank you for taking the time to join us. When I looked and preparing for what we were going to talk about, I looked at your LinkedIn profile, the place that we know each other from. And when I looked at your experiences, I saw retail, I saw media, I saw social media, and now I see marketing.
Yes.
I've seen B2C to B2B.
Yeah, it's been a lot. I've done a lot. You know, I did B2C in one job, and then I went to like a marketing agency where I was doing B2B and B2C, and then now I'm obviously in B2B. So it's been a journey, but we're here now. And yeah, I'm quite enjoying doing B2B at the minute and getting to know more about it and learning along the way. And yeah, I've done a lot of stuff really. When you think about it, I've covered a wide scope. In such a short
time. So what was it? I mean, they're a firm, Vickers are a firm close local to you, right? I guess. So proximity was one thing, but what attracted you to the lubricant sector and a job in marketing?
So I'd say like Vickers Oils specific, it really interested me about the history of the company. Obviously, we're coming up to our 200-year anniversary in 3 years in 2028. So it's really getting quite close now. And just sort of seeing how much it's grown, developed and changed over the years. I was quite interested to see about obviously the development of EALs and how we were sort of at the one of them at the forefront of that sort of thing. I came into it not really knowing anything about the industry, if I'm honest. So I've learned a lot. And if you asked me anything about it in like before I joined, I honestly really wouldn't have known much. But yeah, it really is quite interesting when you get into it, I think. And it's something that I've never had really thought about before, if I'm completely honest.
So within that, you know, there's obviously 100 years of ways of working within Vickers Oils, and you said you went in there and you didn't know much, if anything at all. How have you gone about educating yourself and learning? How does that look for you? Because is that online? Is that physical? Is that reading? How does that look?
So it's a real mix, really. Given that the company is so old, we've got a lot of people that have been here for a while and have a lot of experience. So you can obviously learn from them, and just a lot of reading as well. And so I've been watching like Lubrication Expert videos. I have. They do help. They do really help with learning the technicalities of how our products work, because I personally think that I've got to be understanding how these products work to be able to market them effectively, because what's the point if not? So I try my best to educate myself. But yeah, it's primarily through people that I do work with, because there's a lot of expertise and technical knowledge here with like the technical service department and everything like that. But as well, I do watch Lubrication Expert videos and just reading up, on Google search and stuff like that.
So it's a mix. That's a mix of two things, bringing your marketing skills, but you're talking about application knowledge. So within what you do, we described a bit about you've been learning, you've been, picking up new skills from people that have, I think you said, been there 100 years. I'm only joking. But with people that have been there a long time. But when I think about somebody new into the industry, what there is to learn, there's the products, where the products are used, the industry segments and sectors. So how have you gone about onboarding that skill and that knowledge in a very practical way?
Yeah, there's a lot to learn, given that we cover multiple industries as well in our business. So, yeah, I guess, like I said, with the technical service department, they know a lot about applications, almost just like reading through the resources on our website, on Google. And yeah, it's quite interesting learning about the different applications. I was completely new to the industry, so like just parts of, obviously we cover marine, food grade, industrial and textile. So parts of like a boat that I didn't even know about, for example. Also all of the, regulations within the food industry. You've got to be, make sure that you've got all the registrations and certifications to ensure that your product is safe for that environment. Yeah, again, a lot of reading, learning from colleagues, learning from the team. I still wouldn't class myself as an expert yet. I've been here 18 months, but I definitely think I've got a good degree of knowledge compared to what I did when I started. People that have started in the company, I've explained things briefly to them and they said I seem to know what I'm talking about. So yeah, it's a lot to learn when you haven't, done it before.
Sounds like there's a learning while you're doing it. Learning while you're doing it kind of approach.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good way to go about it because, there is information out there, isn't there, for sure. And with a company with the pedigree of Vickers Oils, there's a lot of experience there. So you're a great and a welcome addition to the industry, I'm sure. But 18 months in, and you're in an industry that isn't necessarily seen as one where young females would gravitate to. How has that been, being young, and I guess young particularly, coming into an industry that is maybe a bit traditional, a bit set in its ways? How has that felt and how has that been?
Yeah, you're definitely right. There's not necessarily, I guess, many younger people working in this industry. And I think that is something that should be something that we should try to change, because obviously we've got you've got new generation of workers and stuff like that. And I do think that it's important to try to educate the younger generation around lubrication. It's been very welcoming working here and, getting to know everyone. I did think upon doing some research, a lot of it, again, reading really long books, lots of words. And that was something when I came in that I wanted to try and make a bit more accessible. Not necessarily, obviously you can do that through marketing material when you are making content and making, brochures and stuff like that, having different aspects. So like on our website, we have a ship, which is like 3D interactive, where you can go around and see the different applications. And that was made before I joined. So even from me looking at that really helped me to sort of visualize everything. I do think in terms of, like you mentioned, learning it, sort of going back to the other question, it is sort of, because I think it's because of like the industry, again, you say being traditional, it is sort of a lot of reading, a lot of books, a lot of words. And I do think that as we are coming back to this question, approaching a younger generation of workers, maybe that is something that we could try to change a bit, because, they're always going to be wanting to see, people are wanting to see video nowadays. People don't want to sit and read like a massive book, I guess.
So when I think about coming into the industry and I think about how daunting that might might appear.
It definitely was. A lot of words that you don't understand when you've just started, you've never worked in this industry before. It really is like learning from the beginning. It was pretty daunting coming in, but I do think that I'm finally sort of gaining some confidence in, when I go talk to people and when I want to speak to people about different things, and even like not me teaching people, but like, again, if we've got new people on the team, me speaking to them and sort of if they're new to the industry as well, and discussing things with them and being able to explain what we do and the industry and the applications again. And yeah.
Yeah. So how does that work then? So Ella's out with her friends. She says, I now work for this oil company. So how do you explain that to them about how the industry really brings people like you on board?
It's definitely like, and it's, when I'm out with my friends and I'm describing what I do for work, they don't really understand.
Yeah.
Because again, like not many younger people, I think, know much about this industry, unless it's maybe like a bit more towards the automotive side and stuff like that with cars. Maybe younger people would know more about that. Because I am a person that will sort of explain things the long way around. I don't just like, I don't describe things briefly. I have to always go for the long descriptions. So if I am, describing it to my friends, when I'm explaining it, they are saying it is interesting, but they still didn't know anything about it before. And I guess it's same as me, because I didn't know anything about it before, but now I work in it, so I'm in it every day. So yeah, it's almost like there are young people out there that are interested by this, but don't necessarily know much about it, I guess.
So I guess I understand what you're saying there, and I think you're right. So we've got a breadth of experiences: retail media, social media, B2C, B2B, and we now understand what's attracted you to the industry, and you're in this great job. And I start to think about Barnsley College, Leeds University, Bachelor of Arts, right? I start to see your education there. How have you brought those skills into your job? How have you found them applicable?
I've always been a more creative person. When I was younger, I had a YouTube channel, so talking to a camera was always quite a natural thing for me when I was sort of doing that. Which is why, and I've not done it in a while, I don't do it anymore, but it's why I thought I knew that we could definitely do this, because I've done it before, and it was just sort of proving to myself that I could do something like this again, even though I've had a bit of a break from that side of things. So when I did my YouTube channel, it sort of kickstarted my video editing. So I sort of self-taught myself some of that. So that does come across into, everyday social media posts and stuff like that we do here. My degree did include like writing, and there's a lot of writing in my job with PR pieces and blog posts, and obviously optimizing the website for SEO and stuff like that. And one of my ideas when I came here was to sort of revive the newsletter. So we had a newsletter, I think years ago. It was a printed one though. And I sort of looked at some copies of that and decided to bring some elements of that into a new newsletter, which it's sort of all hosted in one platform, and it's quite interactive. And that's something that, again, from what I was speaking about earlier, there weren't really many interactive things to do with lubricants, I guess. And I thought I want to make it look a bit more dynamic and engaging almost, rather than it just being like a piece of text on a screen. That is where I've brought these skills in, being creative as well, just by I'm quite a visual person, so being able to like look at something and not just see again a block of text and understand it from like visual points. So yeah, I do think those skills I've brought across as well. When I was funny story, when I was in primary school, age 11, literally leaving primary school, I organised the end of year like little party that we all had, but like, I was only 11, and I just think back and I think my little brother who's 11 definitely couldn't have done that when he was 11. So yeah, I won an award for the most organised when I left primary school for that reason. So that's another sort of thing that I've been able to bring across, with event organisation and stuff like that. And one of the things as well, I don't think I mentioned this at the beginning, but one of the things, obviously I said about how we were sort of one of the people at the forefront of EALs, we're really big on sustainability here at Vickers as well. And that was something that intrigued me, because I didn't necessarily know how you could have like a lubricant or an oil and be sustainable. So it's really interesting to learn about that. And I've definitely learned a lot about that as well since being here.
Thanks for sharing that. I mean, I think this piece about bringing a more digital aspect into marketing is really important, because we are an industry built on tradition, and that tradition used to be your sales rep, your account manager visiting you, maybe bringing a physical brochure. But you're highlighting that there's a real need for a more digital approach. I mean, you're talking there about interactive newsletters, the use of video. Are you finding in your work, in your marketing, that there is an appetite for a more digital, social approach to marketing versus the more traditional aspects?
I do think that they go hand in hand. Before I started here, there was a bit of activity on LinkedIn from us, but not loads. And now I think I would say that I've sort of kickstarted the, posting on LinkedIn and having people interact with us. And that's definitely grown. Like, it's definitely grown the page, over the past 18 months. So clearly people are following us. So they find that stuff interesting to see. And I do think they go hand in hand. We do have all our, you can have a brochure online, you can have a physical copy, because it's still, I do think that, the personalisation of seeing someone in person is still important. I don't think you can completely get rid of that. But again, digitisation in this industry is important for moving forward, and has been something that I've seen since I've sort of started here. People are engaging with it, people are interested. So the newsletter as well, when I posted that on LinkedIn, so I think everyone that follows our page will get a notification about that. But I think that got like 300-400 subscribers within the first 24 hours, which I didn't think was bad, given that our page, I think at the time, probably had about 1,500 followers. So, I thought that was a fair number of people wanting to, it was proving that people do want to see that sort of thing, or it piqued their interest, I guess, if they're going to follow that quick.
So I think you said a couple of things in there, if you don't mind me just picking on them. I mean, I think there is demand. I mean, this idea that over 24 hours, 400 people signed up to a newsletter. I mean, they're not going to do that unless you're telling stories they're interested in. So,
yeah.
So I think that's a really good insight for people. So I think that's very true. And then I think the other side there is really, really equally important to highlight. You mentioned there about online and offline. So I think this again is a very important aspect, that buyers do want to see people. It's just when they want to see them might have changed.
Yes, obviously your research sort of proves that. So yeah, it's true. I think it goes back to, I guess I'm not a person that's gonna buy a lubricant, but when I'm researching, when I first joined the industry and I was searching things to learn, I was searching them online. I know I am a younger person, so maybe that's the way that I would go first, because that is sort of what I've grown up with, the internet. But then again, the younger people are going to be starting work, and it all just sort of goes in that direction, doesn't it, I guess?
Yeah, well, I think you're describing a world that we all live in, right? As people are coming into the workforce, they're digitally native. And you as a marketeer within Vickers Oils has got to respond to that, or you're almost swimming against the tide, right? So I think that's really, really important. By the way, what was your YouTube channel on?
I did like makeup videos, and I did like videos of like like outfits, putting outfits together, and then just like general like lifestyle videos. So like I actually did a video where I passed my driving test and I was giving everyone advice on, you know, how their driving test might go and just tips on stuff like that. And I don't really know why I did that because I didn't pass it the first time, I passed third time. So I don't know why you'd be taking advice from someone that failed it twice. But anyway. And then I did do a video where I was opening my A-level results. That one actually ended up getting quite a lot of views. And then a few videos just about when I moved into university, like tips for university and stuff like that. So yeah, I guess just like lifestyle stuff. But yeah, it was really just things that I enjoyed doing. It was just something I did in my spare time. Did like a few baking videos and stuff like that. I do quite enjoy baking still now. But yeah, just stuff I enjoyed doing really.
So I think that's really, really fascinating. And just to sort of hover on it for a bit. I mean, we won't dig into your YouTube channel and your favorite episode. But one of the things that we observe in the changing workforce is how important social media is and showing your personality, right? And one of the things that stops organizations taking forward the power of, let's just use LinkedIn, is that there's a reticence to show their personality. Now, I'm not saying we want all the sales guys and girls at Vickers Oils to be baking cakes, right, and putting videos up. But how do you see that balance between corporate and personal coming out in your messaging, and what role do you see that playing? Because it isn't just about corporate messages, is it? It can't be.
No, so there's I've been watching a few different like webinars and stuff like that around marketing, and there's a lot of talk about employee generated content, and I do think that for a personal LinkedIn, that is a good idea. You know, I think it's quite interesting. It just gives that personal approach, almost relatability, even if it might not be relatable if you aren't exactly the same job role as them, I guess. But yeah, it just sees things from more of a personal and relatable maybe point of view. So, and I do think that whatever content we post on our LinkedIn page, anything with a picture of a person always seems to get lots more interactions. So that's quite interesting. And I've seen that in previous jobs as well. Whenever we put anything out there, you know, videos, pictures with people always seem to get more interactions. And yeah, so I think that's quite telling as well. It's showing obviously the faces of our company, and I think it's a bit more interesting than just seeing like a corporate graphic sort of thing.
Yeah. Or a picture of a gear or a hydraulic pump or whatever, yeah. Right? So I think that's really great. I mean, you're starting to bring the application of, you know, your previous experiences into your job. And I wish you great success to do that, because I think if we can bring the personality of people forward, it will attract people to the industry. To your earlier point, you said we've got to do better at that. And I think we do better at that by telling our stories better and being more relatable to younger people, right? We want to become the place people want to work. And I certainly engage more on a post where there's a person than when there's an image.
When I first looked at Vickers Oils on LinkedIn before joining, there's like a section, like, I think it's employee content or something like that. I just sort of went straight to it to see who was there. So yeah, that's interesting for me as well, I guess, a bit of an insight into the fact that I'm looking at that to find out more about the company when I could just go on the website, read the About Us section, but I'm sort of looking at the people.
Yeah, we've worked with a number of clients when we've asked them about websites, and this is just an interesting reference point for people. Usually the most visited page on their website is the About Us, because that's where I go to validate who I'm going to do business with, right? Who do I know, who do I like, and who do I trust? So that's the position we're trying to build. And I think you're starting to show us the personality of Ella in here, really, around, you know, these videos, this lifestyle stuff, and, you know, somebody that's, you know, sort of bubbly and the character around that. Now, if you don't mind me just moving slightly. But I saw there was a campaign you did around no regrets drinking campaign. Yeah. And I thought it was very early in somebody's life to be aware and doing something about that. So I'm just interested to explore that for a moment or two. What was that about?
It wasn't like a negative experience in my life. I just thought it was quite important to help spread the message. It was like a volunteering thing that I did. I'm still actually really, really good friends with one of the girls that I did it with now, and she lives down the road from me. So we moved house last year, and she ends up living down the road. So we see each other quite a lot now. So it was just a campaign where we were explaining, like if you're going to have an alcoholic drink when you start university, have one, or, have a few, but make sure you do it responsibly. So yeah, that was what that was. And I just spoke up on it. I did some volunteering around it. And then I think I was on like Leeds TV talking about it about 4 years ago now.
Leeds is a great city. And I had a friend that went to university there. So is your role office based, or
is it? Yeah, it is.
How do you find an office environment?
Yeah, I do quite enjoy coming into the office. I think I honestly do prefer it than working from home, which is not necessarily a controversial thing, but I do think a lot of people do enjoy working from home now, since COVID and stuff like that. I think maybe, COVID started exactly bang on halfway through my uni degree. All of the rest of my uni degree was spent learning from home and doing all the lectures and stuff online. And, my last year was 2021, and even then we didn't go back. So I think just having that sort of like being at home and not really speaking to many people for about a year and a half, I just enjoy being around people in an office environment. I just think it's good for like collaborating, and sometimes it can feel a bit lonely for working from home. It's nice as well, like the people are really nice, and where we are, you can go for a nice walk on your lunch. So it's a nice environment. Like it's a nice office, nice space.
So I mean, my middle daughter went through exactly the same COVID period that you had.
Yeah.
She graduated, i.e. got her degree when she was online at home, and it was a slightly different environment. And she's an incredibly sociable person. And I wonder if clearly, she always was, but I think the COVID thing really just drives her wanting to be in a physical environment as well.
Yeah. Is she the same age as me then? I'm guessing.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah. So we've got this great experience now. We're starting to see that Ella is fulfilling a role within Vickers Oils. We're digitalizing. We've got social media running. We've got all of this personality coming through from our business. What do you see happening in the future? What do you see happening in the marketing landscape, Ella?
It's going to be moving a lot towards digitization. AI is probably going to get involved somewhere in there. It already is, really. It's going to sort of just be even more digitization. For things like writing and stuff, I will always write my own stuff. I don't like AI to generate it. And I know some people do that, but it's just not for me. I just feel like it's not very authentic. But yeah, like in certain like processes, or if I'm looking to do something a certain way, I might ask it how it can help me do that. And then use it from there onwards. So like, if I'm looking to do a report or something like that, how is the best way for me to do that, and what programs can I use to like help me do that? So yeah, it's just sort of it's for that, really. It's not for getting it to write things for me or do my job for me. It's just if I'm struggling to find a program to help me do what I want to do, I'll ask that.
And I think that's an entirely great example, because if I need to write something, I need to know how it looks. Where's my reference point? There's a world you see where AI it plays a part, and you see nothing but more digitalization.
I'd like to think so, but yeah, I know I am quite big on that.
That's great. So we've got a view of the future. Now, I preface this question with the fact that you are only 25. There is this respect for you for what you've achieved already. What are the lessons you'd share with people like you looking in? What would be the thing you would pass on?
So I am going to sort of use a lubricants industry as an example. And I think it sort of goes back to what I was talking about earlier, but how I don't want it to sound like a cop-out answer. But I do think sort of how important the role of lubricants is, because it was something that I never knew about, and it's something that probably a lot of other people don't know about either. But I think it's important to, like, I guess, understand that and maybe educate yourself a bit on that. But yeah, I that is probably, in where I am now, that is a big learning for me. So I just thought I'd share that one. But yeah, I hope it's not a cop-out answer.
Well, it's really isn't, is it? Because yeah, whilst this podcast Beyond the Blend goes out to the lubricant sector, I think the point that you're saying is, you know, we've really got to tell our stories better.
Yeah,
we've got to educate people better, and within that, just tell me. I'm going to go back into that a little bit. Have you been out to factories and things like that? Have you been and seen lubricants in operations yet?
I've been to a brewery, and that was quite interesting, actually. It's quite interesting to see. And also in one of my previous jobs as well, it's random that I'm comparing that, 'cause like I said, I'm first time in the lubricants industry, and it is sort of the first time in a lubricants industry. But in my previous job, we worked with we were working on the social media for a dessert shop, and they have their own manufacturing, food manufacturing site. So I did go there when I worked there as well, to get some sort of footage of the, the desserts being made. So yeah, I did see that there actually before I even joined the lubricants industry. But yeah, that's interesting to think about. I'd never really thought about that before. Obviously, when I went to the brewery, I got a bit more information about the lubricant side of it all, because I was, working in the lubricants industry. But yeah, they are quite satisfying to watch all the machinery go around.
Something relaxing.
Yeah,
something
it's
relaxing about it. Yeah. I mean, as you just were giving your advice about understand where lubricants fit and what it is, but just to piece back into others listening as well, if you get the opportunity to see the lubricants in operation, I think that is also something that can sometimes be quite motivating to see that, the range and the how that operates. So, and in your role, of course, you get to hear directly from customers about the challenges or opportunities you help create. So that's great. So yeah, there's the learning, there's the lesson. Yeah, understand just how important lubricants are, and recognize the role they play in everyday society and the importance. Look, Ella, I want to thank you very, very much for joining us today on Beyond the Blend. I've really enjoyed getting to know you a bit better, your energy, your enthusiasm, and the fact that you're bringing a really fresh perspective and dynamism to the role, I think is only going to serve us well as an industry. So look, Ella, people often after this like to connect. Where will people best find you and connect with you?
Most likely on LinkedIn.
There we go. Ella, thanks again for joining us on this episode of Beyond the Blend.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Beyond the Blend. Be sure to follow us to catch next and future episodes as we continue to explore the people within the lubricant market.